All right. Wait for some people to file in here. We are live. Make sure I'm actually am live. Alrighty. The software it's like a 30-second delay, so it doesn't pop up until second after.
Yeah, you're not showing live yet, but
yeah, no, it's the YouTube is, but the Instagram is not, which is fine. No, the YouTube isn't, so I'm gonna get that going on the Insta. The Instagram's the main one that definitely has more of the viewership. Let me check here. Create live video. Here we go. I think I got it. There we go. All right. Apologies to anybody watching on the YouTube. Just setting this up over the Zoom. There we go. There we go. All right. So in the next 15, 20 seconds, it should be going live.
I see you live now.
There we go. All right. Well, welcome in, everybody. This is more so going to be posted after and stuff, but we figured why not have it live? Get to know another club that may not be fully in the limelight of the USL or the MLS or something, but this is really what the page is about with Grassroots football. So welcome back to the Grassroots Pod and our spotlight series on some of these semi-pro, pro development clubs, things like that. So today, showcasing Naples United FC with Felipe Pereira, who is one of the sort of brains behind the business side. And then Enoch Shawunmi, sporting director of Naples United FC, and who also has over a decade of experience playing professionally in England. So thank you so much for both of you. And I kind of wanted to start it off. We'll go with Felipe first and then Enoch. Your chance to kind of just tell your own background and how you ended up at Naples United FC.
Sure, yeah. So I was born in Brazil, so soccer's been, in my blood since I can remember being little, going to soccer games in Brazil. And when I was about 11 years old, moved to the U.S., moved to the Boston area, grew up in the Boston area, and then about 9 years ago, I had a chance with work to move down here to Florida, to Naples, Florida, and moved here. Got involved with actually American football, and not soccer, but American football down in Brazil was a sport that still growing, but it was growing a lot at the time, about 9 years ago in Brazil. And through that, a lot of the American soccer teams in Brazil are associated. A lot of the American football teams are associated with soccer teams in Brazil as well. So built a lot of connections. But my passion was still soccer. I still kind of love soccer. Always kind of loved the business side of soccer more than anything else. Obviously I played growing up in Brazil. I played in high school. Never got to play collegiately or professionally or semi-professionally, but always was intrigued by the business part of it. So I've been always involved with soccer and always involved in the community too. And then the opportunity came where Naples United offered me to be a part of their team and kind of be the liaison between the community and partners and sponsors here in Naples. And I figured I would join my desire to stick with soccer and and the sport that I love. And also be able to help a local team grow as well. So I've been here for a couple months now, and super excited about the future here.
And then Enoch, from you with your background, obviously we know the decade plus career over in England. Just some of your background and how you ended up at Naples.
Yeah, just so quickly, born in London, raised in London again. Felipe is a hotbed for football, as we call it over there. But my story is quite unique in that I didn't actually play in a professional academy as a youth. I actually went to university in England first at 21. I played against a third division team in England. They asked me to come back on trial. I'm playing in the first team. They're in financial administration at the time. And I'm earning about $50 a week, jumping on a train, London to Luton. And then after about 8 months of doing that, playing in the first team, I scored a hat-trick against Brentford. And then I signed my first professional contract. That summer, I played for Nigeria national team. And then I go on to have like a 12-year, 13-year career in the game. As I retired, as I kind of retired and left the game, as you do, you meet a woman and she's in Miami. And then I end up coming over to Miami. And then she has family in Naples. So just before COVID, I kind of moved down to Naples. And then with no idea of what I was really going to do, I launched my company, which was Global Soccer Pathways, which is kind of like a mentoring company just to help soccer players, because during COVID, I saw people kind of losing their motivation. And then Naples United was already here as an NPSL team. They started in 2017. And then 2020, 2021, I kind of jumped on board and we said, you know what, let's start an academy. And January 2022, we started an academy. We had 6 kids. It was myself and another guy called Vicente Sandoval, who also played at a decent level as well for himself. His wife was helping out on the admin side, and that became our little team. And then we end up building an academy now, which is going on to 350 kids. We've got programs in our community. We've done work with non-profits like St. Matthew's House, and we've done stuff with Salvation Army as well. And we try to be very community focused in terms of what we do as a club. And that's why we brought on Felipe to help in terms of, because we have a really small team that involves me, not just sporting director, but actually coaching teams as well. So it's hard to manage all those little elements as a small club. So Felipe has come on now as we've grown, and we're able to really give back and cause a bigger splash in our community, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And then kind of along those lines, I guess you kind of just gave it, but what would be sort of your like quote unquote elevator pitch for maybe not somebody who's thinking about joining or anything, but just somebody who's a huge soccer fan in the area or even surrounding areas that may not have heard of the club before, something like that? What would be your sort of elevator pitch on what the club has been, especially since you got there in 20?
I think one of the things we really focus on is literally just we want to develop people, not just soccer players on the field. So it's developing people. We try to do things with a level of integrity, which is not always seen in youth soccer and soccer in general. But we try to really focus on developing people as well as soccer players, and developing people as being a big part of what we try to do within our community.
And then for Felipe, so along the lines, and also for you as well, Enoch, just along the lines of academy, I know that was a big, when I talked to you, Felipe, at SoccerX, we talked about the academy was a big thing that you guys really pride yourselves on. How have you guys been investing in that, both time, money, probably a little bit of both? And how do you think that kind of maybe sets you apart from some other developmental clubs that, again, in general, have a bad rap?
Yeah, I think one of the different things that we're very proud of is that we have different categories. So, a child essentially starting at age 6 can play in our academy all the way to the semi-pro team essentially, and kind of grow with our program. It doesn't always happen because they got college that comes along and they'll go to college, or different leagues that they move to. But the opportunity is that, and I think that's very unique about Naples United, and something that I really admire, because you have teams that will focus on the senior teams, the pro teams, semi-pro teams. You have soccer academies that will focus just on the academy, but we actually have that pathway that you can go from the beginning to the very end. And I think, to Enoch's point, I think that's something that we're very proud of, and we invest a lot of time and a lot of money. That's sort of our bread and butter, if you will, because that's where you're developing the players. That's more than just player, you're developing people. You're developing lifelong skills that those kids are going to take with them for their life. So I think being part of programs like this when I was younger, through soccer, I saw the importance of that, and to me that's key in a program like the one that we have. And I think we continue to invest a lot of obviously a lot of money, but then a lot of time, a lot of energy into that program, because that's kind of what we believe it's going to continue to help us grow throughout the years.
Mm-hmm. And then, so for you, Enoch, in terms of, so that there's no secret, I touched on it earlier that there's a bad rap. I was part of it. I played ECNL. You know, you have solid stuff, but at the end of the day, a lot of these could be considered money pits. So what, or just a little too much pay to play. What are you doing to kind of avoid that with Naples United FC and sort of, because again, it's in general, especially with people that are educated with soccer, for the most part, it's not done the proper way that most would say, and part of that's financial, whatever it may be. What are some of the things that you're implementing to kind of maybe the correct term isn't avoid those issues, but more create more advantageous situations?
I think like I always say, no matter where you are across the world, someone is going to pay for kids to play soccer, whether it comes from a parent, whether it comes from local government, whether it comes from fundraising. Someone is going to pay, right? But if people are paying them, I think the main focus has to be on the value we're giving those families and those kids that's coming into the academy. So one of the things we do, and a lot of it stems from obviously my background, just playing the game and being part of it in the UK. Whereas all the teams I played for in the UK, you look at, they were 100-year-old institutions in that city. So the kids coming into the academy, they already have this feeling that they're part of something, they belong to something. So what we try to instill in Naples United and the kids in our academy is that you're not just part of a team in your age group, you're part of our club, you're part of our community, you're part of our tribe. And that doesn't mean that you are going to just only play your own age group. So the key, I always say, to development is that you're looking at how can you take a young kid and develop them based on where they are rather than just their age. So we find that, okay, especially on the boys' side at the moment, and something that we're building on the girls' side, is that if I take a 12-year-old kid and his age group is too easy for him, I don't want to keep him at the age group just to win games. I'm going to keep challenging him and push him up to a U13, push him up to a U14, and really challenge him as a player. And one of the big examples I use for parents who say, oh, well, 2 years up is a bit too strong for him, is that, okay, look at Lamine Yamal. It's like, if he's not winning European Championships at 17, if he was playing his age group at 12. So it's like this development piece of it, I think is super important as a club, that we really focus on development of these players. And then we give them the opportunities to challenge themselves. So in the last year, for instance, we've had a U15 boy who's played U15, U17, U19, and also played at the NPSL level. And that just challenges him across the board and make him think there's something bigger for him, there's something better for him, he can keep moving on to a higher level. And then you're looking at it as a bigger picture over a long term, like Felipe said, if someone comes in the academy at 6 years old, okay, they may not stay to the 18, but the idea would be, can we create 3 pathways? Okay, like, can you go and play for Naples United's first team? And we want to try get you doing that as early as possible. So you look at NPSL, you look at UPSL, you look at, now we've kind of ventured into the women's side with WPSL, looking at playing against older females, older college players, at an earliest age as possible. So then, as a club, we're not necessarily competing with a team that's in ECNL or that's MLS Next or that's GA, because our pathway is slightly different. And I always say, like, you get to a college level at 18, if you're not used to playing against 24-year-old men, like, it's going to be super difficult for you to actually shine in your freshman year in college. So we get these kids playing up as early as possible, getting them used to playing against bigger, faster, stronger players, and then their soccer IQ and development then increases exponentially quicker than it would if they just continued at their own age group. That's just things, one of the areas in which we really focus in on in terms of our academy.
And totally, I mean, even just regardless of sport, like I'm biased. I'm out here in LA as a Laker fan. You know, Luka was playing for Real Madrid's first team, you know, when he's 14, and you see how things like that. So it's all about, you know, you shouldn't hold a kid back just because their age. It's, at the end of the day, it's about talent and development. So again, shifting a little bit more to the business side here. So more for Felipe, it's no secret that running a grassroots club anywhere in the world, but especially in the US, even in Florida, in a place that's as footy crazed as Florida, is really tough at the end of the day when it comes to financials, when a lot of the times it comes to interest. So what are some of the plans you guys have? Again, don't need to get too far into it, some of the confidential stuff, but it's what are some of your guys' plans and what have you guys been doing? I get you're relatively new to the club to kind of, I don't know, break that stigma in a way and really kind of be one of these really cool stories that ends up becoming, whether it's a pro team or a really consistent developmental team. What are some of the steps you're taking to kind of avoid some of those challenges?
I think one of the things Enoch mentioned is adding value, right? And similarly, when we got to add value to the parents and what the parents are getting, and what the athletes are getting from the academy, you got to show that value in the community as well. So what value do you bring into the community? So one of the biggest things that brought me in was the ability to involve the community. So I feel that the club had built their own sort of little community to Enoch's point, where there's a lot of support, there's a lot of things internally, if you will. But there was a lot of opportunities to involve the greater community, if you will, outside of the soccer world. And I think it's kind of putting together a nice package, a nice, a presentable product to be able to show people and say, hey, this is the difference that we're making within our community, and we want you to be a part of that. So it's engaging people, it's bringing people in, not necessarily just to the games, but understanding, the projects that we do and the events that we do and the things that we do around the community. And I think once you have the community backing and you have, whether it's local businesses, local business owners are backing you and supporting you and seeing what you're doing, it kind of comes automatically sort of to fruition that the whole community backs you up. So I feel like one of the biggest challenges that I have in the coming year is exactly doing that. How to take a product that has been somewhat internal to a degree. This community that we've been creating internally, and I think it's pretty well developed. But now it's showcasing that to the broader community, and and inviting them to be a part of it. And I would say, that's really the secret that we have, right? It's not a secret. It's really grassroots, right? It's understanding what you have, and then being able to kind of share that with other people, and hope that other people admire what you're doing, admire your vision, admire the things that you're doing for the community, and come alongside and help you achieve your goals as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like Enoch was saying earlier, like even with some of these players, it's, when you have these institutions that are so tied to the community, it's really hard not to get invested, even as somebody who doesn't really like the sport, even. Which
Yeah,
I'm not sure there's too many of those people in England, but
yeah, I'll give you an example. I mean, I left Brazil, over 30 years ago, and I was pretty young. I was 11 when I left Brazil, but the soccer team from my hometown is still the team that I root for and I follow every day, and I read news, and I listen to the games on on the radio or on the internet these days. But I think once you have those institutions that have been there, and in Brazil, some of them are just as long, 100 years old. Mine happens to be about 7 years old, but like you grow up with that and you kind of build upon that, and it's kind of hard, no matter where you go in the world, that sticks with you. And here I am, 30 years later, still kind of tied to something Brazil, and it's probably the biggest connector that I have to Brazil. It's that soccer team at this point. So that's something that we'd love to build it here too for the next generations as well.
I'm just curious. I like asking this with every guest. Who are each of your guys is like, if you had to choose your main team you support, who would you say it was?
Naples
Well,
United.
mine, I grew up supporting Liverpool, just because of my dad. So when my dad came to England from Nigeria, I think in the 70s, Liverpool was the best team. So I think my dad was a glory hunter. Me growing up, yeah, we didn't win a lot, but we've been pretty strong over the last 10 years, so not so bad.
Yeah, as a West Ham fan, again, not as don't really got ties to it. Just was more fell in love with them during the Dimitri Payet years. It's definitely a little envious of the Liverpool fans, but this year has been as a little bit of a hater. This year has been a little bit nice, or this season, I should say. All right, so back to the question. So for Enoch, so the way I look at it, and I'm like as somebody who covers a lot of USL, I'm very happy that the promotion relegation system is going to eventually be implemented, and they're bringing in people from England, which is in my opinion, I think by pretty much a fact, the deepest and most sustainable promotion relegation system in the world. again, you've been at clubs that were in administration, like you said, you've kind of seen all of it. What are some of the lessons you took from your playing career over there and even just growing up that, again, I feel like I don't want to be too negative in terms of, oh, the things you want to avoid. What are some of the lessons you took that you're like, hey, as a sporting director at now my own club or a club that you're very high up in, like, what are some of those lessons you've taken that you really want to implement on, again, a much smaller scale in the US with the interest and stuff? But, if it works, it works.
Yeah, I think on the field type stuff is of course it's like if you're good enough to play, you play up as much as possible. We try implement that throughout the academy. We give players the opportunity to play in teams above them. I think that's one of the cornerstones of development. You can't just be playing your age group if it's not challenging. Off the field type thing is just literally these. I remember just being like when I first turned pro at 21, and then at Christmas we're going into hospitals, we're going into schools, we're doing talks, we're sharing our experiences, and I think that's life. I think everyone has a story and everyone has valuable information that they can share. And I think from a sporting perspective, there's lots of transferable skills that you build over time. And I think those things that we can have as a club through our players, that we attract players. Over the years, we've taken college players from all over the world to come into Naples and represent Naples United. And some of those have gone back to their colleges, and then the next year, another kid from that college wants to come and play for Naples United. And then we just have over the summer, because we do our academy 12 months of the year. Over the summer, we have those college kids coaching our younger kids. So we have that kind of big brother, little brother system. And because of that, it's like you see and then they go watch them play on a Saturday evening, and they go watch these players play and go, oh, that's my coach. And he scored that goal on the weekend for the first team. Oh, that could be me in 5 years. That could be me in 6 years. That could be me in 7 years. So I think those are the components where it's like when we say community, it's not just kind of in Naples as a community, but within our playing staff, within our coaching staff. It's really like those aspects where you find you belong to something, something bigger than yourself. Like you're wearing a badge of Naples United, and it means something. It means something to you as a kid, because there's something bigger. There's a pathway for you to go and achieve. And like we've had a few players who's played for Naples United in our adult team, and they've gone on to play in the USL, for instance. And it's like, and they've gone on to play pro somewhere else. But once upon a time in their development, they wore that Naples United badge. And that's what we're trying to instill in these young people, is that there is opportunities beyond just a shiny object of some of these bigger leagues. Now, are we as a club applying for some of these leagues? Yes. As a development standpoint, some of these leagues do have better pathways to college. But my message would always be to parents, especially, that it's not the only way to go. There's different pathways, and if you're talented and if a kid works at their game, someone's going to open a door for them eventually, if they keep getting that edge. So I think that's the biggest message that we can really share from kind of what I've seen over in England, and trying to incorporate it into what we do as Naples United.
And then kind of going off that, like you were saying with the different leagues. So what are some of the benefits that you're seeing from playing in the NPSL? I mean, there's so many different options for these developmental leagues and semi-pro leagues and pro leagues. So it's what are some what sort of went behind the choice to either stick with or choose NPSL?
I think initially was the standards that NPSL had. I think as a club, even as a semi-pro club, you want to be as close to a professional standard as possible. And I think at the time, NPSL did have quite high standards. And remember, initially, I wasn't even in the discussions when Naples United first started. The couple came from Miami and they saw an opportunity in Naples. And this was before a big Paradise Coast sports complex was actually built, and before that stadium became something. So they had a vision before I jumped on board, and we progressed it from there. But I think because we built the academy, we created that pathway, we created that pipeline. I don't think it's generally about the NPSL in general. I think depending on what state you're in, it depends what is the best opportunity. Obviously, you've got USL League 2, which is similar. You've got UPSL that has their stuff. So it's like the main thing is, can we give these kids an opportunity to showcase themselves? And then, like I said, our main goals is like, can we get them into college? If they're super serious, yeah, can we get them pro? I think you have to dream high. I had a dream. I didn't know how I was going to make it as a pro, but I stuck at it and I achieved that goal. So I always say to young players is like, you have, everyone knows Ronaldo's and the Messi's and the Neymars, but my kind of story is closer to a lot of these kids than they will ever believe. Because you say you're pro, people assume you was an academy, assume it was easy, assume you didn't have to grind or work hard and deal with your own self-confidence and self-beliefs. And then, so I would say my story is super close to these young kids. So I would say there is a pathway, but these kids have to start, especially at 16, 17, they have to start playing against men. And that's where they're going to really develop and grow quicker. And I can testify, like you say, in the hierarchy of England, you look at how many leagues there are, how many tiers there are in England. Before I turned pro, I was playing tier 11 in London, like a local league. But even at that level, there's still 50 people coming to watch at that level because it's community based, because there's some type of representation and belonging. And I think, again, you're talking about the lessons in the last question, but I think those are the main points in where we can really show these young people that there's opportunities, but you just have to be making sure that you're getting those and playing in the right environment. And it's not necessarily ECNL or the bigger elite leagues that are around right now.
Gotcha. And then, all right, so starting to wrap up. So last business question, I promise. So for Felipe, from a business side, it's got to be interesting having a fully professional team in the same city. Again, Naples is so crazed for soccer, so it's definitely one of the markets where you definitely could do it. But how do you approach having FC Naples, a professional team already in your same city? Do you try and go head to head with them and compete? Do you embrace? Is it a little bit of both? How do you sort of approach that? Because it is definitely a unique situation for one of these semi-pro clubs to have a professional team in the same not huge market.
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, when Vicente Veronica created the team back in 2017, one of the things they wanted to do was to develop soccer in Naples, because at that time there was nothing in Naples. So, here we are 8 years later, and we could say that they did it, right? And after that, there has been a lot of academies. Obviously, then FC Naples coming into town too. So I feel that we kind of did what they accomplished to do, which was, create a pathway for soccer to grow in Naples, I would say, I would be lying to say that it's not challenging. Obviously, having a shiny new object in Naples, particularly in Naples, that it is a town that, people like everything that is shiny and new here, because, we're kind of spoiled a little bit. So I would be lying to say that it's not challenging. But at the same token, I think we, as similar we may be as a soccer club, a bold soccer clubs offering a product, I think we're unique in a way that, we have the academy that we talked about, which is, very different, that, we have pathways for kids to grow. So, while, it may seem like we're offering the same product, I think our product and our goals are a little bit different in a sense, and our strategies are different in a sense. So you can't really focus so much about and think of them as competition or taking space from you, but just kind of in my mind, you just focus on what you're set yourself to do and go on and execute that. And if it was the right decision, that's going to be successful. If not, you have to tweak it and go along. So yeah, I mean, it's it's challenging, but at the same token, I don't think it affects the overall goal of what we want to accomplish as a developing team as well, right? And we've had players like Enox mentioned. Some of the players went to go to FC Naples and played and tried out. Matt Poland, their head coach at one point, was head coach for Naples United as well, right? So I mean, we don't mind sharing with them. After all, we're here to develop develop players and develop coaches and develop staff, and we want to bring it along. But I don't see them as a as a direct competition to us or vice versa. We're sort of looking at different entities with different goals and different mindsets, if you will.
Gotcha.
I would just like to add, like,
yeah, of course.
If you look at just the landscape of soccer in the US, and I think one of the things that will change is that these clubs will be able to coexist together in the same cities, like not just the big cities. It's something where it's probably needed, because I see it as a pro team comes into our city, then everything underneath that in terms of academies, in terms of coaching, needs to level up. Because now you've got something that you can tell. If I'm a coach, I'm going to say, well, I want to develop a player to go play for their local team. Now, if you do that as a coach, you're leveling up your whole operations. You do that across the city, the level gets better. You don't need to actually then travel that far to play good competition, because everyone should be leveling up in terms of like their coaching, in terms of their operations, in terms of how they run as a club. So that competition, you say competition of that, like just level of a pro team being in a city, I think should elevate everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody should then say, okay, there's an opportunity for our kids, if you look at it the right way, to say, we need to all level up as coaches, to say we need to be developing players, not just obviously for college, but there's a pro team on our doorstep now. Let's get them the opportunities to get in through that door. Mm-hmm. and maybe, have a career in the game. And I don't think that's been a big thing in the US overall. I think the push has always been college rather than directly pro. And I think that landscape is kind of changing now, where you see a lot of the fully funded MLS academies coming in. Now you see more kids signing at 18, 19 years old and getting minutes in the first team. So I think that landscape will change over time, and it's what is needed, just as a development standpoint in the US in general.
Totally. I'm sure I'm messing up the statement or the saying, but it's a rising tide raises all boats. It's mm-hmm. And especially, I mean, even then, as somebody who selfishly, like, I cover a lot more USL and stuff, and you also keep them accountable. Because, mm-hmm. It's at the same time, it's just all around. It's like a cycle. Everybody benefits as long as everybody's doing it right. All right. So last question here, and this is for both of you. So where do you see the future of this club going? And again, for Felipe, more from a business and that community perspective, and then maybe from you, Enoch, like more of the on-field level you want to get to, things like that. What do you see in whether it's 5, 10, 15 years down the line, what do you see for the future of Naples United FC? We can go Felipe first. Sorry, yeah. Got a great moderator.
Yeah. Well, I think I treat it as a business, right? Obviously, ultimately, when you're in the business side, you think of business and you think of growth, and and I don't just mean financial growth here, but I want to see the academy grow. I want to see the team be able to support, to have the academy support the team better, to have. To be able to be more involved in the community, to be able to do more events, to be able to help others much more. So, I mean, it's essentially multiplying what we're currently doing. That's kind of what I envision for the future, right? I don't think, I'm sure as we grow, there will be growing pains that we're going to have to address, and and maybe go different directions. But being here for a short period and thinking more of a short time goal. The goal is to kind of multiply what we're doing and continue to grow, and sort of see where that leads, and from there take the actions that are necessary to continue the growth and the development. I mean, one of the things I said earlier is I definitely want to ensure that we are involved in the community, because like I said, I think that's the foundation for every club. We talked about this from history, from other countries, and I want to make sure that we're continue doing that. One of the things that I'm keen on it too is, there's a lot of history, obviously, when you've been around for 8 years. And I want to make sure that history is celebrated and not forgotten either, whether, it's through remembering all of the achievements that we've had or all the different things that we had. So it's been kind of nice to kind of come in and learn about some of those achievements and what have been done here before, and to be able to celebrate that too, because I think those items from the past will kind of also give you, directions of where you should be doing again in the future.
And then from you, Enoch.
Yeah, I just think growing, how I envision is more of like just creating multiple pathways. Being a community club means you are collaborative. So we look at where are the collaborations around the US, in our own city, in our own state. Where can we find the right avenues for these players to really experience the game? Whether that's travel to Europe, whether that's the right leagues, whether that is ECN, or whether that is GDA, whether that is Aspire, whatever it looks like, can we find the right paths for our youth and give them value? And whether that's through us or through a collaborative partner, I think on the field, I think that's where I see the game, where I see kind of how we move forward. I don't think we expand to one of those clubs like I've seen in California, where there's like 6,000 kids and all that kind of stuff. I don't think we will get to that type of level. But I think with the amount of players that we have access to across the board, from our coaches who also they coach in school and after school programs and Salvation Armies, and we go into Title I schools and we volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club and do all this type of community work. I think can we affect and inspire young people to not just be good on the field, but be off the field. And that's within our whole network as a club, not just the players that play for our academy.
Well said. And I just want to thank you both so much. I really appreciate the time and just kind of getting to put a bit of a spotlight. Again, I don't have the biggest audience, but just, I mean, it's so cool to hear sort of the inside from some of these clubs and everything. So one thing I did want to say before we hop off, so please check out Naples United FC's social media and their store. I saw you can get a home replica jersey in and away for like $30, which I know I can't look at the chat because where it's on, but my guy Gage, who's Scissor Tail Shirts, he's probably going to faint when he hears that. Really cool jersey. Please go take a look at their site, especially right around the holidays and stuff. Just really good value. I know I'm going to grab one. But yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I just said appreciate you. It's been fun having this conversation.
Same. I was just gonna thank you for the opportunity, and truly enjoyed this.
So yeah, it's the official podcast should be up later tonight for anybody that's watching live right now. It'll be out on the YouTube. This will be on the Instagram as well, just kind of archived, and then stay tuned for kind of clips and stuff throughout the week. But all right, yeah, have a good one, guys.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you in Naples too at some point, huh?
I'm gonna be there soon. Yeah, I want to do like the whole kind of the USL and a lot of UPSL and MPSL, that whole kind of southern Florida. So I'll definitely be out there. But all right, I'll see you guys soon.
All right, take care.
Take care.